I'm Chris Duke, and this is Motorz. Last year on Motorz, we installed a very cool and innovative product called Horn Tones, which allows us to play virtually any MP3 through an amplified loudspeaker at the press of a button. Now, as cool as that product is, a train horn MP3 sound file is no replacement for the real deal with a set of these monsters, a real air tank, and a real air compressor from trainhornsdelivered.com. So where are we going to put all this stuff, you ask? Well, since our Project F-150 is lifted with huge 35-inch tires, there's no need to carry around a smaller spare, so we have that entire area below the bed just screaming to hold something else. Now keep in mind that this kit is their biggest one. It sells just under $500, but they also carry 3 other kits, including their smallest, which is about $300. You can even put that on a car. So let's check out what this kit comes with and how to install it. The 3 main components are the air compressor, the air tank, and the air horns. Now we're going to mount the tank and the air compressor underneath our canister for our tonneau cover because we've got sufficient space underneath there. And we need to keep the air compressor away from the elements. Now, as far as the air horns are concerned, we're going to mount that underneath the vehicle where the spare tire used to be. Now the kit comes with one switch. We're going to use that for the air compressor. Unless you want to hook it up to your vehicle's horn, you're going to need to get a separate switch to trigger that. Now both of these need to be hooked up to 12-volt power. Now there are many different ways of installing a train horn kit on your vehicle, but these are all the tools that we used for our particular installation. Some safety goggles and some tape and a pin so you can mark all of your wiring because you do have quite a bit. Some zip ties, an adjustable wrench, a socket wrench and a 14mm socket, some crimpers, some strippers, and some cutters for your wires, some additional wiring, and some electrical tape. Now you can go the route of using solder and all that, or you can use some connectors. Now if you don't use your stock horn, you're going to need to pick up some switches like we did from our local Radio Shack, and to mount them in their dash you're going to need a hole saw and use a Dremel to clean up that plastic. Now for mounting the horns, you're going to need a couple of drill bits and a power drill. Now we also use this Velcro, and you'll find out why in a little bit. In addition to your air line that you're going to have to hook up to your horns, you're also going to have to hook up a switch or your vehicle's horn to these 2 wires. That's for the solenoid. That's what's going to activate the valve and open it up and give you your blast. Now where we're going to mount these is underneath our truck, right here in the spare tire location, since we don't have a spare tire anymore. Now just watch out for these cross members when you put this up there and figure out where you're going to mount it. After you've drilled your holes, drop in your 3 bolts and then add on this vibration pad. Once you've got this on there, then you can mount your horns. Then plug in your air line and hook up your switch. Due to the fact that we've got this huge canister for our roll-top tonneau cover and a bed rug, made it very difficult for us to bolt these down to the steel bed. So as a result, we came up with the idea, since this is a bed rug, of using Velcro straps, and as you can see, these things are on there pretty good and aren't going to move. The other advantage is it makes it a lot easier to remove if we need to replace or repair them. To route all the wiring and the air line from the air tank and the air compressor out of the bed of the truck, we drilled a hole through the plastic insert at the front of the bed. Routed everything through that hole. For our switches, we went back to Radio Shack and got another one that matched the first one that we bought. And these are going to go to the left and the right of the cigarette lighter. The one on the left is going to control the air compressor, and the one on the right is going to control the solenoid to activate the train horn. Use a smaller drill bit to drill your pilot hole where your switch is going to go. And then for our switch, which is 3/4 inch round, we're going to use this 3/4 inch hole saw to drill the larger hole. Now the reason why we're using the Dremel is to get rid of some plastic that was on the back side of here and make that nice and smooth and flush for our switch, because on the back side of the switch is this ring. Let's go ahead and flip this over. This is going to be the compressor switch. It slides right in like that. Looks nice and clean, almost stock. Now we flip it over and we put this ring around it. That tightens it down. Make your initial connections for 12-volt power and ground. that's what we end up with. There are two wires that go from the train horns all the way up to the front of the cab. One of them is the ground wire, that's the black one, that needs to be grounded. The other wire, the red one, goes up to the switch in the cab. All the wires come up through this grommet underneath the carpet on the driver's side. Now we've got one ground wire, two for the switches, and one for constant power for the air compressor. To operate your train horns, which on our vehicle is this switch here on the left, then once your tank fills up, you're going to use the switch on the right to blast them. Brought to you by Hellwig Products, quality suspension products for over 60 years. Original equipment brakes look pretty weak behind a nice set of wheels. Why not dress them up with aggressive-looking rotors that provide more bite when cold and extra cooling when they're hot? Stone has been providing customers with brake system upgrades for nearly 20 years, essentially inventing the big brake kit market. Working initially with Brembo and then partnering up with AP Racing, Stone has the experience with brake systems to understand what should and should not be done when upgrading. These Stone Sport rotors are the perfect upgrade for your stock brakes, short of a full-blown big brake system. High-quality rotors are machined with specific face patterns for each application. Then cross-drilled holes are radius chamfered to eliminate cracking for anything short of a full-on track day. But they also offer slotted for guys that are living on the track. Slots are ramped in and out to resist dust buildup and finished off with a special zinc plating that provides excellent protection against corrosion. For more information, check out Stillen.com. Now, there are many different ways to hook up your train horns to switches. You can blast them using your vehicle's stock horn button. However, we don't recommend you do it that way unless you have a switch to override its use. A separate switch, like we've installed on our F-150, is recommended, preferably out of reach from other passengers. Speaking of switches, you can refer to our website for a wiring diagram to see how we've hooked everything up. Just visit the page for this episode and look for a link directly below the player. Now, if you get in trouble with the law, you want to make sure that your stock horn button does nothing more than honk your stock horn. Train horns have been used for as long as locomotives have been around to alert people and motorists that a train is approaching. Now, as cool as train horns on vehicles can be, they're illegal just about everywhere. A stock horn on a vehicle is about 110 decibels, but these train horns are 180, quite a bit louder than what's legally allowed. To put 180 dB into perspective, a jet engine is 120 decibels, a gunshot's 140, and any exposure to 140 decibels or higher can actually cause hearing loss. 180 dB is very, very loud. The reason why they're illegal is they violate noise ordinances, plus you could easily startle another driver and cause a major accident, possibly involving yourself. Be responsible and considerate about how you use it, and think of it as a novelty, not as something you want to use on a frequent basis, and never use it around moving vehicles. Now air it up, go have some fun. Well, that does it for this episode of Motorz. For more information on the train horns that we installed today, go to trainhornsdelivered.com. Now, for more episodes of Motorz, go to motorz.tv, where you can also check out some show notes below the player, and also chat it up in our forums where you can ask questions about your particular installation. Please stand by for station identification. This is not a test. Kontakt gleepen, glaupen, glopen. Push. One take. Let's check out what our fortune cookie says here. Oh, this is interesting. It says for instructions, go to www.trainhornkits.com. The heck?